This is dress selection and design. Following the same pattern of reasoning, figures of medium height tend to be either slender, thin, and angular, large-boned and stockily, build or overweight. Choice of lines for them falls in between those recommended for tall and short figures. A woman of medium height has greater liberty, as her choice may range from medium large to medium small in scale of design or fabric pattern, and from medium fine to medium coarse textures. Overpronounced repetitions or contradictions of face or figure are less likely to occur. Although the woman of medium height wears dramatic extremes of fashion with less flair than the tall fashion figure, her advantage is versatility, the ability to wear more kinds of clothes than the very tall or the very short. Since medium includes the overwhelming majority of women, the greater part of all ready-to-wear is designed for her proportions, which greatly simplifies her problem of selection. If she interprets fashion with self-understanding, she will know how far to deviate from the suggestions for the tall or short to find the lines, textures, and patterns scaled to her own figure and in harmony with her own taste. Restoring balance to out-of-proportion figures. A dress designer once said that if by some magic formula for cutting clothes she could make all women appear beautifully proportioned, her fortune would be made. Indeed it would. But clever manipulation of line and dress will go far toward improving the appearance of figures with one part of the body out of proportion to another. The eternal problem is to handle lines to reduce figure discrepancies without loss of line quality and style, a challenging and often baffling problem. The four methods described below can be used to balance out-of-proportion figures. Each is more successful when used in conjunction with one or two of the other methods. 1. Draw attention away from a figure fault by focusing on a good point. For example, draw attention away from outsized hips by focusing attention on a pretty face, neck, and shoulders. Work directly with out-of-proportion area using same example of outsized hips. Panel the skirt vertically to reduce the apparent hip size, for hips go unnoticed only when they are made as inconspicuous as possible. Here it's showing the narrow shoulders, that reducing hips and thighs is important by accenting the top of the figure and concealing the hips under a long full skirt. It says avoid halter necklines and pleats bursting apart at the hips. Wear a wide hat brim, broad collar, and double-breasted bolero to balance hip width. Shun raglans, long blouse sleeves, and skirts with flare at the sides. Conceal the figure fault. For example, hide large hips and heavy legs under a voluminous long skirt. Use this method only when the waistline, bust, and shoulders are small and their neatness is revealed by a close-fitting bodice. Heavy arms, bust, and waistline give away the secret that the body is large all over. Build out a too small part of the body to balance the normal or large part. For example, shoulder pads widen and raise thin, sloping shoulders so that they balance heavy hips. Building out is far easier than cutting down size. It is easier to expand thin figures than contract heavy ones. Study illustrations and their captions to learn how to use each method to create illusions of improving figure proportions. Narrow, sloping shoulders, small bust, broad hips, heavy thighs. A figure with hips noticeably broader than shoulders is quite typically feminine, but unfortunately, the difference tends to become more pronounced with the years. Overweight below the waist appears to shorten, widen, age the whole figure. The figures to interpret current fashions to build out or focus attention. The problem is to focus attention on the small area, shoulder and bust, and reduce, conceal heavy hips and thighs. Two distinctly different line combinations will do this. One builds out the top to balance the hip molding, narrow skirt. The other contrasts a fitted bodice with a flared skirt, which completely conceals hips and thighs. Carefully fitted foundation garments are first requisite. Brassiere, which lifts, defines the bosom, and firm girdle, which reduces the actual hip measurement. Figure control will go far toward solving this figure fault. The accompanying illustrations show how to manipulate line and dress to build out the top of the figure and sunderize the hips and thighs, as well as how to create an illusion that the body is small all over by playing up the advantage of a small waistline, bust, and shoulders while concealing heavy hips and legs. Compare the illustrations, study the captions. So we have here do's and don'ts for top-heavy figures, hip length jackets, balance, a prominent bust. A short bolero enlarges the bust. Vertical lines, easy fit, flared, pleated skirts subtly emphasize hips. Avoid tight-fitting bodice, choker beads, bow neckline, or raglan sleeve because they magnify a heavy bosom. To minimize round shoulders, a flat chest, and hollow back. Wear soft folds, ties at the bust line. Avoid unrelieved necklines and bust lines. Dress the hair low at the nape. Wear collar and straight falling jacket to hide round shoulders and a hollow back. Avoid fitted jackets tightly buttoned. Fill out the hollows with bows and blousing. Wear large draped bows and full skirts to give shape to a thin, undeveloped figure. So the key is balance and not avoiding distortion. Lines to minimize large head and a neck, shoulder, arm, and bust. The top-heavy figure. Although not so prevalent as the figure too heavy from the waist down, it is common enough, especially among older women, to deserve analysis. A young girl with some but not all of these figure faults can follow the suggestions and so far as they apply. The problem is to emphasize the ponderous upper part of the body and subtly increase the apparent size of the hips and legs and ankles to bring them into better balance with the top. However, frankly, enlarging the body from the waist down makes the whole figure appear large and clumsy, and so must be done with restraint. Since a high firm bust and a small rib cage is our youthful traits, and the first requirement is a firm brassiere that lifts and supports heavy low bust, lightweight soft girdles to smooth the hips, and without reducing their size, gives this figure support enough. The illustrations show ways minimizing upper part of the body and subtly emphasizing hips to balance the top-heavy figure. So minimizing the top. So says built-up belts, midriff, emphasis shorten a long waistline, contour belts placed at hip bone and details below the waistline, lengthen a short waistline. So adding details to the waist and emphasizes it. Lines to minimize round shoulders, forward head, flat chest, hollow back. A willowy young girl who grows too fast is liable to develop some or all of these figure irregularities. Unfortunately, one person may have all these faults because one leads to another. Poor posture is almost certainly the villain. Needless to say, steps should be taken without delay to correct the posture before bones and muscles become permanently adjusted to a slouched position. However, if the faults are caused by defects in bone structure and cannot be entirely corrected, skillfully placed lines and just accomplish wonders in concealing them. Filling out hollows is easier than cutting down the size of an overweight figure. A lightweight girdle that bridges the back hollow and flattens a prominent abdomen or posterior, and a brassiere that raises and supports the breast give the figure a more energetic, less dejected appearance. Hair arranged loosely over the ears and at the back of the neck fills in the hollow at the top of the spine. So, to modify a prominent abdomen, wear blousing above the belt, skirts gathered at the side, front, tied belts, wear box jackets and action pleats and skirts, avoid tight jackets and skirts which reveal a prominent abdomen, wear sweeping skirts, soft bows at the side and the front, and emphasize the neckline, avoid horizontal gathers which greatly enlarge the abdominal curve. Long and short waistline. A belt marking the natural waistline will make a short figure with a low waistline look nearly as long from the waist up as from the waist down. And a short-waisted top figure will look too leggy. Both appear ungainly unless their clothes restore a semblance of normal proportions. Lines that create an illusion that the waistline is higher than it is, compared with lines that create an illusion that the waistline is lower than it is. Large abdomen. Either overweight or poor posture may cause a prominent abdomen. Whatever the cause, try first to correct it. For disguising this irregularity is far from easy. If your belt buckle precedes you through a door, take heed. Correct your posture. Cut out from these extra snacks. Better do both. Wear a firm girdle that helps flatten the bulge. Next step is to seek lines in costume which appear to modify the abdominal curve as well as attract attention elsewhere. So lines that modify prominent abdomen. Maternity wear. Loose smocks with flattening or flattering necklines. Let out skirts are becoming. Avoid stretch pants or tight skirts topped off by short smocks. They magnify the abdomen. The problem of concealing a prominent abdomen is, of course, intensified by pregnancy to the extent that the modern young woman does not attempt to hide the curve. She should concentrate instead on wearing lines, colors, and textures that make her appear neat and attractive. She can follow the same suggestions for lines as the woman with the prominent abdomen caused by poor posture, except that her clothes should provide more ease and fullness for her expanding body, which will increase all over. Glossy, clean, carefully dressed hair, and flattering colored smocks of crisp, immaculate cotton that focus attention on pretty necklines make the pregnant woman attractive. Several fashion houses design special lines which solve the pregnancy problem attractively if she requires evening or business clothes. So they should be flattering and in summary, although the preceding examples of scaling designs to figure size of improving appearance of disproportionate figures through manipulation of line cannot include every possible figure variation, the same principles that guide the handling of line in the cases given apply to all other irregularities. The successful adaptation of costume lines to figure lines must be based on an understanding of the illusions of the various line directions created by repetition or contradiction, the illusion of diverging and converging lines, the strengthening power of color and pattern contrast, the effects of textures and colors of figure size and appearance. Do not be overconscious of figure defects or irregularities. You need illusions created by lines, repetitions, divergence, convergence, power of color and pattern, and textures in all the costumes. Success in choosing clothes to make the most of one's appearance depends on capturing those elusive qualities, style, and smartness fully as much as on improving irregularities. Suggested readings: Color and Line in Dress, The Arts of Costume and Personal Appearance, Clothes for You. And a suggested experiment: 1. Clip or trace from magazines sketches of clothes which suit your figure and style for the most part. On tracing paper placed over the sketches, try various minor changes that adapt them specifically for your figure. 2. On tracing paper placed over mimeographed copies of out-of-proportion figures, practice designing clothes becoming to each. The teacher or students may prepare in advance out-of-proportion revisions of the 8-head fashion figure and have them mimeographed for class use. Try to adapt copies of the designs shown into out-of-proportion figures without loss of style. Adapt original designs to your own proportions and style. So one is to get an outfit and change it and adapt it, and one is to get an out of proportion figure and add becoming clothes to it. So that was it for this part. We're gonna take a pause. We made a sketch earlier of our proportions. Let's see here. I was trying to check something. Some of the things we did earlier. There we go. We did our measurements here with measuring the number of heads that we have. And from the top of our skull to the bottom of our feet, to the floor, I mean. So, and we actually got 9 heads for our height, I believe. Yes. It varies for person to person. I know the writing that I read, it said 8 heads, but I believe it varies depending on your height. So, I don't know. Maybe they're not right. This book is not current. So this is what I got was 9. Okay. And let's see. And the reason for that, once again, was because 1 head length for the head. Then you have from skipping the neck, which is half a head length, and skipping the bottom of the feet from the ankles down to your sole, which is another half a head length. So those would add up to 1. So 1 head length for the head, 1 head length for those 2 bits of our body. So that's 2 total. Then from your shoulders to your waist is 2. So that's 4. From your waist to your hips is 1. So that's 5. And then from your hips down to your ankles, so the length of your legs is 4 head lengths. So 5 and 4 is 9. So the total height is 9 head lengths. And our arms are from the shoulder to your elbow is 1.5 head lengths. And from your elbow to your wrist is 1 head length, and wrist to the bottom of your fingertips is, I believe, 1 more head length. So your whole arm is 3.5 head length. Is that right? Let me see. Yeah, I guess that's it. So anyways, that's that. So I'll see you guys later. My page is facebook.com/yosallplay, YOSALLPLAY. Bye.